Hey guys, so I got some bad news for the Monte Carlo. I'm in it right now. So I had it at the mechanic last week for an ABS sensor that went bad, which ended up just being. This is actually something to look at if you have an ABS sensor that went bad, especially if you've had it replaced somewhat recently. Like I had it replaced like 2 years ago, and I've only had maybe 10,000 miles on this in the past 2 years. Oh, no more than that, probably 20,000 in the past 2 years. Um, so it was my front driver side uh, wheel bearing, because you have to replace the wheel bearing to replace the sensor. But my mechanic asked if the other mechanic that did my front, um, he actually did the front ABS sensor, which you have to like partially remove it out of the like the axle out of the transmission or something to get to it, or to replace it, whatever. He asked if he rewired it, and I was like, well, I don't know, I don't know if he did or not. So he goes and checks it, and inside the grommet, or sorry, not the grommet, but like there's the plastic cover that goes over the wires. I can't remember what it's called. I think it might be a grommet. I'm not sure. Either way, so it's a plastic ribbed cover that goes over wires. He looked in there and saw that the wires were still like factory. They were still old. So he's like, well, I'm going to try to just rewire this, because a lot of times what happens is they rub, and because they get old and brittle, they will they won't have the right connection on them and stuff. So he rewired it, and since he's rewired it, my ABS sensor has been fine. It's been about a week now. It was kicking on and off constantly, where you'd hear like it would ding and it would pop up, and the brakes would act funny. When you start moving, it acted like the traction control was trying to kick in, even though you weren't even hitting the gas hardly. It was always happening on right turns. And since he's done that, it's been fine. But the bad news that I got was when it was up on the lift, he called me over, and he had me look at the underneath of the Monte Carlo. And as you've seen in my older videos, around the wheel wells in the back, there's rust, and there's rust around the between the front wheel and the door. Well, I had it looked at 2 years. I've had the car for 3 years, coming up on 4 actually, and I had it looked at twice by two mechanics in PA, and they both are certified to inspect vehicles for the state of Pennsylvania. I live in Ohio, so there's no inspection in Ohio, but I still had it looked at. Well, one of them is my buddy, and he's like, you just need this and this, and you're good. The other one, same thing. He just said, you need this and this, and you're good. This is a different time frame. And I even asked him, I was like, so did you look at it like as if you were inspecting it? And he's like, yeah, you're good. You just need like a wheel bearing. And that's when the wheel bearing happened. So um, structurally wise, the Monte Carlo, like underneath it and everything was good. Well, in Pennsylvania, they use salt for snow, and in Ohio, they use brine. And brine apparently is like it sticks on the metal, and it's a lot more destructive than the salt is. And to put it in perspective, this thing sat all winter. I never drove it in the snow. I drove it when it was a nice day, like how it is now, but like maybe snow on the ground, but not on the roads. Which there's still brine and stuff on the roads, I guess. But so it took its toll. So he said, he called me over, and he's like, look, I can't. He's like, I had a hard time even putting the lift underneath it. I couldn't find a spot that was actually not rust, that wasn't like brittle and falling apart type of thing, to get the lift underneath on the front driver's side. So beneath my foot over here is like, I mean, the carpet's there and there is metal, but beneath that there is like parts of like the unibody and stuff. It's taking its toll, where it's like gone. And then the back strut on the driver's side creaks, and I told them to replace that, because I've been dealing with it for a year, but the suspension's still good. And he's like, well, that's your struts. So he calls me over, and he looks, and he's like, he shows me, and he's like, yeah, you might not even want to replace that, because in about a year, there's not going to be anything to, like, for it to attach to. So no matter what, whether you replace the struts or not, they're not going to be connected in about a year. So I have to really look at this. This car only has 90,000 miles. So I'll start it up right now. It has 89,843. So, but the crappy thing about that is that this thing, I've had it for 4 years. I bought it with 61,000 miles, so I haven't even put 30,000 miles on it yet, and it's probably going to be bad in a year. So now I'm driving it all I can. I'm gonna look into seeing if there's any way to I know there's undercoating, but you're supposed to do that when it hasn't rusted yet. I don't know if there's anything that you can spray it with, or to keep it from rusting. But the mechanic was estimating that it was gonna be like $3,000 or $4,000 just to get the underneath fixed. To fix it all, like a body shop or something. He said it's pretty bad. You're gonna have to replace quite a bit of it. So now I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna drive it all summer, I guess, and then I don't know what I'll do when it comes time where it's almost bad. So, but if you live in the areas that use salt, I seriously recommend getting undercoated, not the rubber stuff. You get like fluid film. So it'll drip like crazy, but you don't want the rubber stuff because that'll seal in the salt if it gets in there, and it'll rust even worse. So I unfortunately I like this car, so it sucks to see it. I'm not going to be able to drive it too much longer unless I figure something out. But so if you're watching this, leave a comment if you would like, and please like and subscribe. And thanks for watching.